Good people can go through some pretty difficult times, and in recent years we've seen more of that than ever before, especially with the economy. Job losses, homes losing value, tough economic times ruining many families. But there is hope and there is help. So join me now in welcoming the ladies of the law, Kast and Felicia Walker with the law firm of Emery, Kast and Walker, a law firm in Jacksonville dedicated to helping good people in bad times. Thank you so much, Andrea and Felicia, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. So we're talking about consumer rights, and that's a pretty broad topic, but there's some specific things that you guys want to talk about. And we were actually talking in the commercial break right before this about, those phone calls that you get from people who are always trying to just get on you about paying bills and whatnot. So let's kind of break this down a little bit.
Okay, well, it is a broad topic, and that's why we only want to talk today about the things that we think is really important to most people, and that's financial well-being. I mean, if you are under financial stress, you can, have thoughts of suicide, lead to divorce. So we want to let people know what their rights are under the law. Specifically, we also want to let people know what other people don't have a right to do to you. Just because you're a good person going through a hard economic time, you don't have a right to have a lot of things happen to you that are happening to you, like the harassing phone calls and just creditors going after you. And tomorrow's World Consumer Rights Day, so we thought today would be a good day to share this topic.
And we're going to break down consumer rights. We're not talking about the rights in our Constitution, our God-given rights. We're talking about consumer rights.
Right.
And what rights do we have as consumers?
Well, the first right is actually a federal law, and it's called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or you may hear it referred to as the FDCPA. And there's also a Florida version of that. And what that law says is that a debt collector cannot do certain things to harass you or try to collect the debt. In our office, we just meet with hundreds and hundreds of clients that have been, just bombarded with telephone calls and threats of lawsuits or arrest. They're calling friends and family, and it's just an extremely stressful time for people, and the law protects them from that, but most of our viewers don't know that they can make that stop.
Yeah, I was telling you guys earlier that my phone line, I don't think that I have ever received a call on my landline for me. It's always for this poor lady who apparently had the phone number beforehand, and she, I think, owed somebody some money. And I tell these people when they call, listen, she no longer lives here. I don't stop them.
They don't care.
They keep calling because they want to. So what does the law specifically say about this? What can the law do to then try to ward off some of the harassment that people are seeing?
Well, laws are never simple, but there are about 6 basic rights that you have under the FDCPA. And the first one would be that you have a right to not be constantly contacted by these creditors, and especially during inconvenient times. And inconvenient time is considered before 8 a.m. in the morning or after 9 o'clock p.m. I know I've been with friends and family that are receiving creditor phone calls on holidays and 10 o'clock at night, and they just don't stop. You also have a right to not have them contact your friends and your family or even your neighbors. And when I say that, people are really shocked that that actually happens. But in my own personal life, my mother had a neighbor that owed some debt, and they were calling my mom on a continual basis, asking her to go over to his house. Yes.
Really?
I'm not even exaggerating a moment. And when she refused to do that because she didn't feel comfortable knocking on our neighbor's door to say, hey, call Chase Bank or whoever it would be, and it wasn't Chase for the record.
Okay.
But then they would start harassing her. They turned their tactics onto her, trying to harass her into going over and doing that. And unfortunately for my mother, she has a daughter that went to law school, and we got it nipped in the bud pretty quickly. Yeah. But not everybody has that, and that's a violation of the law, especially with a third party that's completely innocent in it, and they're receiving someone else's debt calls.
Like your phone calls.
Yeah. So what can you do? You say, listen, this is a violation of the law. Stop. I mean, is that essentially what you can do?
And you can tell them to stop calling you at work, and they can't call your employers. You can also, they don't have the right to call you names, threaten you, yell at you, curse at you. I mean, people get cussed at sometimes by creditor calls, and that's just not right. And they also don't have the right to make you post-date a check and then, prosecute you if that check's not good when they cash it.
So, you know, because I get these phone calls. So, so if you say on the phone, listen, you're violating my consumer rights, you know, you cannot do this, but they still continue to call. I mean, you know, because there's a lot of phone calls. What do you say? Take me off your registry, don't do this anymore. You seek legal action.
Right.
What do you do to make them stop?
Well, under the FDCPA, you can actually sue that debt collector for the violations.
Right.
Under the law, you're entitled to $1,000, which may not seem to be a lot. It seems like a lot to sue someone for just $1,000. But what you have to consider as well is that there are attorney's fees and costs that you're entitled to recover if you're successful. You can get your attorney's fees and costs back. You can get pain and suffering. You know, it's extremely stressful. We have a lot of clients who have had medical problems with the stress because stress is damaging to your body and have had to seek medical care for that. And also any lost wages that you have from having to deal with these situations. And so it really turn into something that you can make the creditor stop and have a court of law back you up on that.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's important that people know that they can do something. Real quick, I'm going to combine two questions because we have about 30 seconds left. What if somebody says you owe X amount, and you're like, no, I don't owe X amount. You know, there's no way I racked up that charge. How do you then fight somebody on that? And what if a creditor is breaking the law? What if they're you know, coming up with some fictitious sort of amount that you never accrued?
Well, within 5 days of a creditor contacting you for the first time or a debt collector, they're required to tell you in writing who you owe the debt to, how much you owe, and how you can dispute the debt. You have 30 days from that time to dispute the debt with them, and you can also report to the major credit reporting agencies that you dispute the debt.
Right.
Of course, one way too is to file bankruptcy if you actually do owe the debt.
Right.
You can file and get rid of it forever.
Okay, so the bottom line is a very complicated process.
Yes.
And I know that we've run out of time, and you know, some people will say, well, I am in debt, I owe a lot of money, I don't have the money to afford an attorney, and you guys say, no, come talk to us, because we can still give you guys some help, even if you're facing, you know, some tough times.
Right.
All right, well, thank you guys, I appreciate it. We run out of time, but we want to thank the ladies of the law, Felicia Walker and Andrea Kast, for their advice, and we also want to thank Emery, Kast, and Walker for sponsoring this segment. Remember, the biggest mistake that you can have when facing financial hardships is to do nothing. The legal team of Emery, Kast, and Walker understands what you're going through. Tough times, they're here to help good people in bad times. So visit their website, www.jackslawyer.com, or call them 904-404-3394 for a free consultation to find out what solutions you can have to your problems.